Good
evening and welcome everyone to yet another session of Kitab Translation Tuesday. Today we have with us the critically acclaimed Bengali author Bani Basu. Bani Basu is one of the most versatile contemporary writers in Bengali, an eminent academician, poet, novelist, essayist, critic and translator. She writes on diverse topics ranging from history and mythology to society, psychology and gender. She has translated works of D.H. Lawrence, Somerset Maugham, Sri Aurobindo, among others, which has gained her a wide readership. But she started writing as an original author from her short stories, which haven't been so widely translated. So I guess publishers make a note of that. But then let's come to her novels, which are well loved by the non-Bengali speaking audience. Her first novel was Janmabhumi Matribhumi, followed by Antarghat, Maitri Jata, Kharab Chele, Swet Patharer Thala, and Panchom Purush. Bani Basu has won a number of awards, including Tara Shankar in 1991, Shiromoni in 1997, Anando in 1998, Bonkim in 1998, and Katha 2003, and Sahitya Academy in 2010. A number of the stories have been adapted into films and TV serials. We are so excited to have her with us today. We would be talking about her latest translation, A Plate of White Marble. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. It's an honor to have you. And ma'am, the first thing that struck us about the book was that when you wrote this, you said this in 1950s, but wrote this in 1990. So, hadn't the status of widows changed during that time, or what prompted you to write this book? Was it still the same?
Actually, the status of the widows might have changed, but not in essence. Only details have changed, not in essence. The idea was still relevant, the idea of the old type of widowhood. It was still rampant. Okay. And about the time, I would say that between the actual occurrence of the incidents and writing about it, there should be a margin. There should be a fair margin, so that you can look back and have the whole picture in perspective. That's why the incidents that happened in the 1950s, they got their fuller meaning, and they could be seen in their full significance only 20 years later. Yeah. If you can put it that way.
Ma'am, would you like to give us a little essence of what exactly did our main protagonist go through by reading a passage from the original? Then maybe we can also read the same passage from the translation to help our readers understand what exactly was the situation like. Our viewers complaining about the sound?
Yes.
So can they hear us now?
Can you hear us now?
Give us a thumbs up if you can hear us, because we would be reading a passage. Ma'am would be reading a passage from the original.
Much better. Yes.
Well, your suggestion is quite is good, because the audience will get the sound of Bengali, of the original Bengali language, which is extremely necessary. And all of us being the citizens of India, different provinces of India, we are quite familiar with the sounds, with the sweeps, the movements of the language. And that's why I think even Hindi-speaking people or Marathi speaking people for that matter, they can just get the meaning of the Bengali language even without knowing it very well. And we should try it, I think. Okay, let me read the Bengali. থালার উপর ছোট ডেকচি থেকে আতপান্ন বেড়ে হঠাৎ ডুকরে উঠলেন মাঝবয়সী গিন্নি বান্নি মানুষটি। চুলগুলি 4 ভাগের 1 ভাগ সাদা, চওড়া সিঁথিতে চওড়া সিঁদুর, চওড়া লাল নকশিপাড় শাড়ি, 3 থাক দাঁত দেওয়া। এই রকমের রাঙা পাড় শাড়ি ছাড়া উনি পরতে চান না। দুহাত ভর্তি ঝমঝমে চুড়ি, লোহা, রুলি, কান্নাটি তার চেয়েও ঝমঝমে, কণ্ঠের জোরেও বটে, শোকের জোরেও বটে। কোথায় গেলি রে খোকা, একবার দেখে যা, বাছার আমার কষ্টটা দেখে যা। দুধের বাছাকে কেমন করে এ জিনিস ধরে দিই রে। বসেছিলেন আরো দুজন, একজন খুড় শাশুড়ি, তিনি চট করে চোখে আঁচল চাপা দিলেন। দ্বিতীয়জন বড় ননদ, তিনি চোখ মুছতে মুছতে উঠে দাঁড়ালেন। এসরাজের আর্তনাদ মলিন আবহ সঙ্গীত সহ এমনই এক গা ছমছমে দৃশ্য যে কোনো এওটি একে বেশিক্ষণ সহ্য করতে পারে না। খাবার জন্য সবে যে ঘরে পা বাড়িয়েছিল, এতক্ষণ দালান হাঁটার ক্লান্তি তার পায়ে, এতক্ষণ পাথরের ঠান্ডায় পা পেতে রাখার কালশিটে তার 2 পায়ের আঙুলে, শরীরের ভেতরটা দুর্বলতায় এবং আকস্মিক উত্তেজনায় কাঁপছে। হঠাৎ সে বলে উঠল, যা দিলে আপনারও কষ্ট হয় না, আমিও খেতে পারি, এমন জিনিস দিলেই তো পারেন মা। রোজ রোজ এ নিয়ে এত কান্নাকাটির দরকার কি? আরে আমি সত্যি খেয়ে উঠতে পারছি না। শেষের শব্দগুলো বিকৃত রুদ্ধ কান্নায়। ঘরের মধ্যে যেন অকস্মাৎ বজ্রপাত হলো। বড় ননদ চলে যাবেন বলে ফিরে দাঁড়িয়েছিলেন, সেই অবস্থাতেই একটু নজজু হয়ে দাঁড়িয়ে থেকে যুগপৎ শাশুড়ি ও বউয়ের মুখ দুটো দেখে নিলেন। তারপর হঠাৎ একটু বেগেই বেরিয়ে গেলেন। শাশুড়ি সেই যে উদ্যত কান্না গিলে মুখখানাকে নিচু করে ফেলেছেন, আর তোলেননি। খুব শাশুড়ির চোখের জল শুকিয়ে মুখটা কিরকম বিহ্বল হয়ে রয়েছে, যেন তাকে কেউ থাবড়া মেরেছে হঠাৎ। আলু কাঁচকলার হবিষ্যান্ন আজ আর কিছুতেই বন্দনার গলা দিয়ে নামল না। ক্রোধে, ক্ষোভে, লজ্জায় গলার মধ্যে পিণ্ড পাকিয়ে গেল। This is about the ritual of a widow's daily lunch.
Okay, so you heard it from ma'am in Bengali. I will read out the translation to you so that you understand exactly what ma'am was trying to say. Serving atap rice on the plate from a small saucepan, the middle-aged, heavily built mother-in-law suddenly broke into wails. 1/4 of her hair had turned grey. A broad streak of vermilion was visible in the broad parting of her hair. She was in an aristocratically woven red bordered sari with 3 rows of the traditional temple pattern. She would wear nothing but these colourfully bordered saris. Her arms were full of loudly jangling gold bangles, wristlets, and the special wedding bangles of iron and conch shell. Her wails, however, outdid their jangles. They must have derived their strength from the quality of her voice and the depths of her grief. Where have you gone, Coca? Come and see me. Come and see my suffering for once. How can I possibly serve this time with such food? 2 other women were seated there. One was a younger paternal aunt. Promptly, she pressed the edge of her sari to her eyes. The second was an elder sister-in-law. She wiped hers and stood up. Very few married women, in fact, can stand for long such a blood-chilling scene, especially when accompanied by the background score of esraj-like wails. The young woman who had just entered the room for a meal, after the tiring barefoot walk down the long cold verandas, her toes blotched by the cold, her body in shivers for weakness and unexpected agitation, suddenly spoke up. Why not serve then something that does not cause you pain, Ma? Something that I can eat. Why this daily ritual of crying? To tell you the truth, I can't eat this anymore. I just can't. The last words were distorted as she choked in tears of frustration. I hope you guys got a flavor of the English as well, the original as well as the translation. So moving on to our next question. Ma'am, before this outburst that we just read, what we felt was that, you've been building up this aristocratic house in each and every detail. It reminded us of those North Calcutta Bengali houses that we have, steeped with their old rituals and culture, while trying to accept the new, while that's what we said, they can send their son abroad to study, but once he studies and comes back, they have a problem with sitting on a dining table rather than sitting down and eating. So that's what we felt, that it was like a kind of a build-up which was a little to us as a reader in English, maybe not so in Bengali. It was a little slow. And after that, it just felt, after this outburst, that it felt that, there was a rush of emotions coming through, much like what Bandana just described. But was that intentional or was that not?
Actually, you asked a number of questions in the form of one question. Yeah, let me answer them one by one. First of all, there is of course a build-up. This build-up is actually metaphorical of the whole society, and the house and the family, that not exactly what you mean by aristocracy, but they're orthodox, extremely orthodox. And this kind of orthodoxy you may not find in other middle class or aristocratic houses, but they are typical, a stereotype, That's why I have taken so much pains to describe the inside of the house, the outside of the house, and also the para, that is the locality. The locality. Everything actually are in tune with their, you may call it blatant orthodoxy. Yes. And the second part of the question, actually the novel picks up from this moment. Yeah. From this moment. Until now, we didn't know who the protagonist is. Only just a glimpse of her and her life earlier, prior to her widowhood. And we still do not know what she is, why they are all, so excited, it seems like that. This is actually dramatic beginning, I think. First of all, a setting of the build-up of the place, of the mental space of the society where these people move. And then there is a concrete incident which sets the tone of the novel. And of course it deals with the protagonist, but not the protagonist alone. There are subplots, subtexts, etc. And these are contributing either as a foil to the protagonist's struggle, or they might be parallels. In some cases they might be parallels. And this Bandana's movement forward, it is described in detail. It has got different stages, phases. She does not get her liberty, the freedom of the mind, all of a sudden. She has to be helped there. And every time she is in a crisis, somebody is there to lift her from that quagmire. So this is the kind of movement that is taken. This pattern has been taken by me. She crosses one phase of the struggle and goes on to another. In this way, there is actually a series of incidents, crises in her life, which in the long run make her a full personality, a personality of one's own.
That's what you see. It's like more like an ebb and flow in.
I do not know why you are talking about rush, because it is not at all rushing. There are the subplots, especially the subplot consisting of the life of Kali, the sister-in-law, the younger sister-in-law, who also is a foil to Vandana.
You could disagree there, because when you say about the plots and subplots, it makes a lot of sense. Maybe we as English reader, it felt like there were these so many things which were all coming together, but they each had their own place in the story, where either they were strengthening her or they were weakening her. In the end, it all, like you said rightly, it helped build Vandana to who she was. So coming to the third question here, we had Abhiroop's character, which is Vandana's son. He was very interesting in the beginning. Like, as a young boy, he could not see his mother in white. He almost felt sick with fever. And once he grew up to be a man, he could not even stand up for her, in terms of when others were ridiculing her for her forwardness in terms of dressing the way she likes or eating the way she likes. So what were the observations that you had in society at that moment when you were penning Abhiroop down? What was it that you were trying to showcase with Abhiroop's character?
Actually, when a person is a child, especially a child like Abhiroop, who lost his father so young, lost also his mother in a way, when we are concerned with his feelings, he will react like a child. A child must have a shelter, must have all sorts of antennae around him. He is attached to the society, as it were, through all these antennae, and he's a person who needs help, and the best help will come to him through his parents. Here, a single parent. He's dependent on her emotionally and also in other matters. But when he grows up with the normal ideals of a man in a society. He takes the role of a man in the society. He is now not only is it that he is not a child, but at the same time he is not a son either. He is now a full-grown man, and therefore he must have his own likes and dislikes professed, asserted, and he must assume the place of the master in the house. That is, everything will be done according to his wishes and his dictates. That is the kind of personality he has now developed. Now, this is not the case with every son like him. There are other types, but he is a stereotype. I have chosen him as a stereotype who reacts to all these things like a typical man about the house. Moreover, this Abhiroop, he has been pampered by his mother and his grandfathers in such a way that he thinks a lot of himself, a lot about himself, and he has turned selfish and what is more self-centered. And as he has opined, he has asserted in this novel that his relation to his mother is not only that of a mother and son, but also that of a failed young man with a successful lady. That should be marked.
Yeah.
This is how he is defining their relationship. So he is looking at the whole thing from this light. He feels a sort of inferiority when in comparison with his mother, and he instinctively he tries to dominate her. All these complexities are in his character and in his reactions. He's not at all a liberal man at all.
Interesting. So, coming back to Vandana's support system, we have Kaka, we've got Sudipto, we've got Kuli, who all have been, trying to be her support, trying to help her out in whatever way they can, emotionally, by being there for her, Kaka by taking her away, everything. But we always see a reluctance in Vandana to break free. Why is that? Why is there that reluctance in her to break free?
Haven't you noticed that people always love a kind of status quo?
Yeah.
Even an emotional status quo. And that is Vandana's case. She, in a way, she feels comfortable with old values. Because there is no effort needed. There is only suffering, misery. But struggle to find one's own self, struggling to find one's own identity, that needs lots of effort, lots of rebellion, lots of original thinking. These things actually people do not easily take to. That's why maybe in her deeper minds she is feeling comfortable with her being a widow, treated as a widow, somebody who is being pitied, maybe. Because I'm saying all these things because it's very difficult to probe into the human psychology and find out exactly what forces are there which dictate our actions. And I find that Vandana is partly responsible also for her own reactions, the initial reactions. Later on we find that she is worshipping the photograph of her husband. What does it mean? I don't think any normal woman will do it. Normal, educated, modern woman will do it. But she is taking refuge in it, sort of, as something that she feels comfortable with. And it refers to the existing idea about husbands and wives, their relationships, their relations with the society, etc., etc. And therefore she is sticking to it. Even when her uncle, her kaka, is explaining his own ideals, the ideology. He's trying to preach her, to make her come out of that self-built castle of us, castle of orthodoxy that is still existent in her. Therefore, she needs actually a boost in every phase of her struggle. She is being helped, and without this, she wouldn't have been able to succeed at all. The three men, her uncle, her lover, and her, what should I say, the senior friend, Goshal, who is her boss.
Yes.
These three are the key persons in her life to define, to help her to define her own position in society.
Very interesting. Ma'am, so coming there, I wanted to know that, we are today in 2020, right? It's been 30 years since this novel was written. Why do you think this novel was so important in today's day and age? Why did you think it needed to be translated is what, what my question to you was. To you is.
Now, I should rather leave it to you. But as you asked me this question, let me try to find out an answer to this. This is a subcontinent, part of a subcontinent, and you will find different centuries here at the same time. 15th century, 16th century, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th and 21st. There may be people who are also anticipating the 22nd and the 23rd. All these centuries, they are acting here.
Okay. Just give us 2 minutes. Sorry for the interruption.
Don't wait.
এখানে 888 হয়েছে 1888 হয়েছে বিল
Ask him to ask the one এখানে একটা লাইফ চলছে আশ্চর্য
Sorry about the break, but man's back. And so
Yes, what I was trying to point out is that we are not just living in 21st century, not even in the 20th, not even in the 19th, but all these different centuries, say 5 to 6 centuries, they are living at the same time, simultaneously. Therefore, this may be relevant to someone's family, someone's consciousness. It may not be relevant to some other families. There is always this difference. Families differ from one house to another, one state to another. This is happening all the time. So let me try to point out the reality of the woman's condition, the widow's condition, and the people who are still insisting that a widow should behave, should be treated in this way. Let them have the book, let them read the book. And about so far as the others are concerned, they will have the picture, they will have it in of their mind.
are there any questions for us from the audience?
Yes, there are a few questions.
Sucharita, would you like to just ask them to man, please?
Contemporary Literary Threads has a question.
Yeah.
What was the idea behind the character of Anupam Shom? Because Shudipto was already there just after the introduction of Anupam Shom's character.
Well, these things happen. When a woman is young and beautiful, she will have all kinds of advances. Which advance she actually feels is acceptable. There lies the clue to her character.
Okay.
And there is also, that additional feeling about friendship between a male and a female.
Okay.
Every proposal is not actually a marriage proposal.
Books and Beard has a question. Do we find a part of Bani Basu as an educated working woman in the character of Bandana?
No, not at all. Not at all. Totally by
Books and
observation.
Beard has another comment. Ma'am, you have always tried to portray the evils in the society through your writing. Do you think in the current generation, the desire among authors to become bestsellers has made a serious dent on the quality of Indian fiction?
I just couldn't catch that.
So basically what he's trying to say is that because people are trying to create bestsellers, so they are not working on societal issues anymore. They are more into masala fiction rather than actually writing quality Indian fiction. So he is interested to know what your comment on that is, that aren't people writing about societal reforms, or the way your books talk just very clearly give a societal message. So that's what Books and Beard wants to know, that whether quality fiction is suffering at the hands of writing bestsellers.
Well, I'm not into the idea of writing bestsellers. And the most serious writers wouldn't try that. I am a serious writer, and another thing, I am not trying to give a social message. This also get clear, please, in your mind. I am not trying to give a social message. I have suffered with these people, and this is just a portrayal of that suffering. And this is not a consciously given message, just morals, not at all.
Interesting.
It happens to have some kind of message, but that was not intended.
So, Book Fairy Me has a question. How important is it for you to have a strong female protagonist in your writing, ma'am?
Strong female protagonist.
I actually will give you two answers to this. One answer is this, that because I am a female, I see the females more clearly.
Interesting.
That is the first answer. The second answer is this, yes, of course I need stronger women. We need stronger women.
Interesting. So there are a couple of comments. Swati blog says Shudito Da's departure was heartbreaking. Contemporary literary threads thanks you for the answer. The Goan Girl reads us, is the character of Bandana inspired by someone you knew? A similar question comes from Shiba Priya, who asks, ma'am, how do we focus on developing one character rather than running parallel stories?
I have a problem
Ma'am,
with the
how
last
do
part
we
of the
focus
question.
on developing one character rather than running parallel stories? I think she wants.
Could you, Shibpriya, actually clarify that question, because that question is quite unclear to us. But we will take the Goan Girl reads question if ma'am wants to talk about
Is
that.
Bandana's character inspired by someone you know? That's her question.
Yeah, that's no, not in totality. There are parts maybe. Bandana as a widow, Bandana as a young bride, Bandana as the bride of the family, reacting with her sisters-in-law. These things I think may have been taken from reality, but the whole character of Bandana, whole development of Bandana has not been taken from any real person.
Okay. So I guess that's it. We don't have any more questions. And I can go back. So thank you all for joining us. and thank you, ma'am, for being with us today. It's an honor to have you on Kitab Khana's Instagram, and thank you for being such a good audience and asking us all these questions. In case you have missed this live session, you can view it on our IGTV. Is there a last question?
Yes, Shibopriya, she has followed up her answer. She has written, yes ma'am, I meant focusing only on the protagonist and developing it throughout the stories. Any tips? I think she wants tips on writing.
I don't know. Ma'am, as a parting note, what I would like to ask you is that, is there any writing that you would recommend for readers in English who can read on the topic about widows in India? Anything else in fiction that you would recommend for readers of English to read?
Unfortunately, I can't think of any. Most unfortunately.
Yeah, because we were having trouble finding it ourselves, and then we thought we'd ask you. So thank you for being such a wonderful audience.